Welcome to the GSMC Pets Podcast, the show that caters to pet lovers of all kinds. We'll talk about pets on social media, pets doing amazing things, and how to take care of the pets in your life. Whether your pet is a dog, a cat, a llama, hamster, reptile, or something more exotic, you'll find educational and entertaining information on the GSMC Pets Podcast.
Alright, recording of the Soothing the Savage Beast. For the intro, and also for segment 1. Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Pets Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Samantha Melvin, and you know what, I just wanted to share some good news. Months ago, it all starts months ago, though. When Regina was around 5 months old, I passed out on my chair and my glasses fell off my face. And when I came to, I heard this chonking sound. Kind of like the sound you get when you're biting into a handful of nachos. And I mean like a serious handful of nachos. And I sat straight up and guess what I find? I see baby Regina chewing on the frames of my glasses. Obviously, I redirected her. You know, she has all these little toys that I like to give to her. Especially little Piggy that I got 2 of. But anyway, to give you some perspective of this entire glasses thing, Regina is now a year old, 12 months. So it was 7 months until I actually went ahead and got a new pair. But the point is that Regina saw her mommy passed out, didn't know what to do, and she felt extremely stressed by it. And as you know, a pet's means of de-stressing, without any positive distressors around, this kind of leads to damage of personal property, or, feisty behavior, maybe even neediness. But also, maybe all 4 of them happening all at once. Now that is a bit overwhelming. So, how can we, their parents, help with the increasing pressure of mom and dad being home all the time? It really does ruin their schedule for sure. And they can't really have direct access to mom and dad because, well, they're either on their phone working or on their computer working or just busy doing something that is related to life outside of the house, pretty much. And, well, I've done a little bit of research from multiple sources, and I have a few ideas. The first thing is that we do need to talk about, the types of stressors that our pets go through. And then we can get into the more fun part of, well, what kind of toys can we get for them? What kind of gadgets do people use? And what can we do to change the environment around them? And, of course, nice music, which I've already talked about in the past. And after that, we will talk about some other good news about Regina and how she is currently doing on her house training, which has been a battle. All of these considerations will help in de-stressing your pets. And, well, we moved into our new home just recently, as I said, and I just feel unprepared for the incoming April showers. And I am prepared for the Mayflowers, but our first experience of a bad thunderstorm took us off guard. Eisen, he knows what he does. He has this down to a T. He will go to his little hidey space, disappear for long periods of time, but then he'll come out when everything's okay. We have no idea where his spot is, and I think we can just leave it at that. We will not guess. We will not try to track him down. He will come to us. But, unfortunately, Cookie and Regina, I'll be honest. First thing, I was basically sitting right in front of Cookie on our chairs, and the second that the thunder just cracked, and it was a really loud thunder crack, Cookie just kind of tried to bolt, but stopped suddenly. And I kind of like think of it as a race car that goes before the flag is waved, basically, and it was just kind of like a false start. And I had to go ahead and grab her because I knew that she was scared. She was trembling, and I wasn't sure, like, where could this had come from? And even Regina had a problem. She's never scared of anything except for, I guess, loud noises that take her off guard. Because I remember a time when she was a few months younger, not like she was 5 months old or something. Like, she was a little older, but I was walking her in this semi-truck that was in our downtown area. Like, it just dropped its back ramp, and there were chains, like, rattling all over the place, and Regina's like, oh my gosh, and she starts bolting and starts pulling me down. And if she were as big as she is now, I would have fallen, flat on my face, and I would have probably lost her, like, her running off somewhere. But she was smaller then, and we got out okay, but she was very scared. It was the first time that, well, aside from the cat that scratched her on the nose when she was a puppy, that was the first time that I saw her with her tail between her legs and crying. So, all of this stuff, for Regina, she, like, hopped onto my husband's lap, and she just kind of started scanning the room, like, in anxiety, pretty much. And all of that was very palpable. It wasn't destructive or anything like that, but you could tell that they were very stressed out. And, like, then we have to think about trauma and how that plays into, especially dogs that you rescue or dogs that you find on the street. Well, I guess that's also rescuing, but Regina was found on the street, basically. But, like, what are you supposed to do with that? And, you run into, like, issues of, like, the storms that are really terrible for some of our pets. And you have to start thinking, like, where is this rooted in? And this is, like, I'm probably just kind of anthropomorphizing again. But who knows, maybe your dog had a really bad experience with loud noises. Maybe they were walking around outside by themselves and a thunder cracked and it was terrifying for them. So now they're, kind of afraid of thunder. Thunder for maybe the rest of their life. And then for, let's see, separation anxiety, with the pet's parents leaving. Like, for a period of time, Regina was pretty awful. She still is pretty difficult. But I had read in, online, I can't remember the website though, but I also talked to my vet about this. And we were mostly talking about Cookie in this case. But, the vet said essentially, well, you could you could change your habits when it comes to leaving your pets for the day. So instead of just having that daily routine that we have, like, mix it up. Because then it's basically, leaving is not very special. Don't say hello or goodbye to your pets when you come in. Because then that makes it kind of like something to mourn for. And then also something to just celebrate. I mean, seriously, you've seen some untrained dogs, like, welcome you at the front door, right? They're jumping and they're biting a little bit and they're scratching at you, licking at you, and it's like, dude, I'm trying to come inside. Please, move out of the way. But all of that is basically linked to you coming home as a celebration. And when you leave, that's them being very upset, thinking you're never going to come back, and that, well, what else am I supposed to do? Well, this thing kind of smells like Mom and Dad. Let me chew on this. I miss them so much. Well, that's that's kind of what's going on there. And there's this other thing with Regina that we kind of find a little bit cute, but also kind of sad. And she is afraid of the dark. How do we know this? Well, for the first period of time, after we let her sleep in the bedroom, she was getting bigger, and we had her go out into the living room, and she could sleep on one of the armchairs. Okay, perfect. But of course, it's pitch black in there, and when this first started, the blinds, we didn't have curtains in our bedroom, so there was plenty of light coming in because our neighbors like to leave their lights on very late at night. But no problem. We already have curtains now. But like, she at least had that light coming in when she was younger and she was staying in the room with us. Now in the living room, there was no light, and she would cry for like 30 minutes or something like that until eventually she fell asleep. But I finally went to Goodwill and I decided, oh, well, I see a lamp that I really like. It looks really cool. So I take it home, and it's a really heavy lamp. So I know for a fact that Regina will not, flip it over and break. It was that heavy. But that night I decided to turn on that lamp to see how Regina would act after she had come to the door again and started crying. And the second I put on that light, well, she stopped crying, and I was able to get her to go into the armchair, and then she kind of cuddled up, and I went to bed, and we didn't hear from her. Just maybe a few whines, but that's about it. So our dog is officially scared of the dark. And I don't really know how we can deal with that now. Like, what do you do to help a dog that's afraid of the dark? Do you just continue to, I don't want to say enable, but leave that lamp on? Because that's going to really ride up your electricity bill. I mean, what else? What can you do for that? I imagine that there's a lot of desensitizing that you can do for your dog. But this dog has already a lot of stuff that we're working on. And not to say that she's a difficult dog, but she is a very independent dog, very smart, and she's very food motivated. So all that kind of stuff really ties up into a really good dog, but it's also her independence really is she likes to push buttons, for sure. But anyway, aside from that, what can we do for Regina? What can we do for Cookie when we're not there to adjust things for them? And, well, I get to talk to you in our next segment about, well, toys for your pets, which I actually need to get better about, and I need to find ones that are very indestructible, because Reggie is ridiculous when it comes to, all of her toys. Seriously, she destroyed an indestructible squeaky toy. How is that possible? How is that possible? But she is a free spirit, and she really needs a toy that can really help her. We have some Kongs for her, but then she loses them, and we can't find them. So what are some options for us? And we'll talk about those options after the break, okay?
Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? The GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast is a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts America Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today. Download the GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
We just talked about this. we just talked about the stressors that can cause your dog a lot of issues with your relationship with your dog. And, well, it can be a little difficult working with these stressors for them, and sometimes it could make or break a relationship that you have with a pet, honestly. And that's a really sad thing. So when you are taking on a pet, you really need to make sure you're there, during good times and bad. Kind of like getting married, I guess. But there are ways to help your pets. And that's honestly one of the things, toys. Toys are fantastic. And I have to say that that's one thing that I'm kind of not doing too good on. But I think that we can definitely work on it for sure. Now, it really depends on the personality of your pet. Like, Eisen, for example, he hates bells and balls. He just likes the little, not strings, but the little dangling ropes that you can, use with cats. I don't know what they're called. That's kind of sad for a pet owner. But, for Reggie and Cookie, they might like something completely different. But Eisen much prefers the calming thing of something flipping around as if it's dying. Let's just call it what it is. But for the others, the two dogs, there can be some things that you can definitely do. We actually have to separate Cookie and Reggie when it comes to playing because, well, Reggie's kind of a bully, and we're working on that, and I might talk about that in future episodes. But one of the major things, and this is something that everyone goes to, and this is the classic Kong. And it's actually pretty awesome. When the lady that used to be my coworker, she now owns a rescue. When she first gave me Regina, she gave me a few Kongs, like multiple Kongs that were of different sizes, and somehow Regina still manages to lose these. But one of the major things that she suggested to me was that, well, you put in some peanut butter, and don't just give it to them at that moment, but you prepare it. You put the peanut butter inside the Kong, and then you put it into the freezer. And it kind of helps with longevity when it comes to that toy, and it'll keep the dog completely distracted for an extended period of time. And if you have multiple ones like we do, we just need to find them, then we can have an entire army of Kongs where Regina can just enjoy herself. Cookie, she just likes treats. She's old. She likes to try to play sometimes, but she is definitely old. And like old dogs, they sleep a lot. But she doesn't give us too much trouble. It's the young one that we have to look out for. Now, if the classic Kong is not exactly working, there are also different Kongs that you can use, which are the treat dispensing ones. So, maybe you have, let's see. Actually, we had one for Eisen to try to slow down his eating when he was overweight, actually. And there's this Kong that you can do you can twist the top off and put a small amount of treats in there. And it's weighted on the bottom, so when you twist it on and then you give it to your pets, they can kind of push it over and be very particular about how they push it over, because if they push it over one side, well, what if the hole's not dispensing the treat? They'll have to push it a certain way so that the treat will come out. And that takes a little bit. And then Eisen got really smart and just kind of pushed the Kong all the way down and just waited for more treats to come out. Yeah. So, if your animal is a genius, that might not work. You might need to get one that's a little more complicated. But that's not just all of it. It's, let's see, a Jolly Pets teaser ball. That's one thing that I'm seeing on Chewy, actually. And it's a ball within a ball, so that there's this one big protective hollowed out ball that's basically shielding this inner ball. And it's basically during that time period that you're away, or you just want them to focus on something else, Well, they're going to focus on that, getting that small ball out of that big ball. And that's actually kind of genius. Especially for dogs that get hyper-focused on something. And, well, that also goes along with, like, puzzle toys, too. You know, I mentioned the treat dispenser. Well, it's a puzzle toy. But there are different kinds of toys that you can use where, well, it's more expensive, I guess, because it's more complex and more like a game. But it's very, it's more expensive than a typical Kong or anything like that. But it's very versatile. And if you are willing to spend that money, that's great on you. But for us, the Kong works pretty well. And, there are also these really nice things called little stuffed animal toys that, sometimes your dog really, really likes. For instance, when I first got Regina, I saw this little piggy toy that I took home from, I think it was like Walgreens or something like that. And it had a squeaker inside of it, but, that didn't really matter because Regina killed it instantly. But I gave this toy to Regina, and I can see her always playing with that thing all the time. And she still has it. And it got all ripped up. So then I got a second one for her, and she won't give up either of them. Yeah. So it's a toy that really brings comfort to Regina, I imagine, because it was like one of the first toys that she actually really had. And now she likes all kinds of toys that are pigs that she can rip up. Yeah. I think I got her 5 different pigs, and only one survives. No, not anymore. None of them have survived, but she's still kind of playing with them. But all of that said, like on Chewy, they're talking about like a Smart Pet Love Care Bear, which is like a snuggly puppy behavioral aid dog toy. I'm not really sure. It seems like a regular toy, but then it says it has a pulsing heartbeat and a heat source that can work to soothe and calm your puppy naturally. I think I need to get that. That's pretty cool. But in addition to that, just when, let's see, actually, when we were talking about what we would do with our pets during this lockdown, there were many ways that you could distract your pet. Like, Regina loves ice cubes. So basically anything icy that we can get her, it calms her down and she's able to like chomp on something and she can just feel it in her teeth and she'll feel, it'll kind of release the tension of her wanting to bite all the time. And, there's that. I mean, you could also, what other things could you do? Well, on the other hand, you could always just pet them, wrap them up in blankets or something, and, hope that they'll stick around and enjoy it. But typically, I've seen a lot of success with the classic Kongs, and if you can get many sizes of them, it'll definitely work. Well, again, it really depends on the personality of your dog. But you know what? I've left Cookie out, and it's mostly because Regina is a bully dog, and we have to put her in a separate room. So we usually take one of Regina's toys because Regina claims all of them, and this is very frustrating, actually. I would love to hear some feedback on this particular thing. So maybe I could put it on the next episode or something. But anyway, we take one of Regina's toys and we just let Cookie kind of like run amok in our bedroom just to have her get that activity. And it works, but she gets really tired really fast. And I guess that kind of works out for us because we don't need 2 hyperactive dogs running around in our house. That was a bad move, Sam. No, I'm just kidding. I love the both of them very much. But I'm used to, crazy behavior. When Eisen was a small little boy, he used to do gymnastics on when I was still younger, like before high school ended. Well, he would do gymnastics on the bunk bed that I would sleep under, and there would be no mattress on top, so you could just grab onto the bars of it. It was pretty amazing. But that is neither here nor there. There are plenty of other things that you can do for your pet so that they can be less stressed. And one thing is, like, getting all those cool gadgets and stuff, you know, kind of like the treat dispensers and stuff, but there are definitely other things that you can do. That's, I wouldn't say things that they can play with, but things that they can channel their energy into. Or maybe something that can relax them, for instance. But we will get to that after this commercial break.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
We are back from the commercial break, and now, after talking about toys and just stress in general for your dogs and cats and, you know, parrots, lizards, anything that you have, well, I wanted to talk about the different gadgets. So not necessarily toys, but things that you can use to make your pet's life easier when it comes to anxiety. And the first one I want to get to is one thing that my vet actually suggested to me for our animals, and that is something called the Adaptable Air Dispenser. So kind of think of it like aromatherapy for dogs. You know how people get those little diffusers and they get all kinds of scents that they can put into it. So it's basically the same thing, where you basically plug it in and, you know, the nice air that has pheromones in it just kind of releases, and it's supposed to calm your dog down. Now, there is also, and this is pretty cool, this calming collar that you can get. And you know what? Every single time I think of pets and collars, I get very paranoid because, well, I always think about like shock collars, which are terrible, awful. Never do that to your poor thing. But this adaptable calming collar seems like it's very good for outside, you know, especially when, let's say, your dog is extremely hyperactive and wants to play with every single dog in the neighborhood whenever they see them. Well, hopefully that, I don't know how exactly it works. I'd have to look into it more, but it does seem like an option for people. And, you know, there's all kinds of anxiety that comes with walking outside with your pet. Like, for instance, like if you're coming upon another person that has a dog down the sidewalk, well, what should you do? Typically, for when we had Rhodey, we would like walk him across the street because he would get very anxious, very panicked, I would say, just seeing another dog. But if you can, you could always maneuver around in the sidewalk to where the dogs can meet each other, like they can go around each other, like, you know, give them some time to sniff each other's butts or something. But it's pretty much them getting them to come in straight face to face is not something that dogs will do. They get nervous, they get anxious, and, you know, it kind of makes them want to, you know, I don't know, play who's the dominant one. And you definitely don't need that, because that's stressful for the dogs, and that's stressful for you, and then people get, like, possibly bad opinions, like neighbors might see bad opinions about you. But, again, you don't want that. So hopefully the Adaptal collar would help with that. Again, I don't know what it is, that it does, but I would imagine it, if they're selling it and it seems well received, that it's worth a try. Now what about the next thing on my list? And I'm pretty sure a lot of you are familiar with it. I remember for a very long period of time, like, friends and family would talk about this with regard to Rhodey. And it is the Thunder Shirt. And it actually really does work. We had Rhodey wearing it, and he would be nice and, he'd feel calm and protected. He seemed more at ease. But I'm always traumatized by the idea of Thunder Shirts, because he passed away in his Thunder Shirt, and I just can't stand to look at it right now. But if we wanted to use that for Regina, we'd have to get another one that was much bigger, because Rhodey was oddly shaped but quite small in the waist area. But that is something that is actually really, really helpful. I can definitely say it works. And apparently there's also something else. And I just want you, if you're on your computer, you're on your phone, go to Google and go to images and type in Thunder Cap and tell me what you think of that image. I will say that I cannot help but laugh whenever I see it. Even imagining it just makes me kind of giggle, because it's a very absurd looking thing, but essentially it's a cap that you put on your dog, and the muzzle of your dog is like poking out into this hole, and there's nothing that they can see. Like, there are no eye holes for it. And I get the concept, like, it's destimulating them pretty much. If you can get rid of one of those sensations, senses that they have, well, that'll lessen the amount of stress that they have, hopefully, in this idealistic world. So, I mean, that's definitely an option. I don't know if I could get it for Regina or Cookie. Well, maybe for Cookie, just to laugh at her a little bit, but I can't see myself really buying it unless somebody tells me, oh, this really, really works. And just by it being, like, related to the Thunder Shirt, I'm kind of tempted to try it, but only because of, the brand. But anyway, there is also one thing, and just a little bit of information about me. I have a therapist that uses a white noise machine, and that is actually something you can use for your pets, too. Well, for basically anyone where, you're feeling really anxious, and the white noise is supposed to start calming you down. I'm not really sure about the science of it, but, it's like, the first time I heard about it, it was a person that had sleep difficulties, and they found an app that they could just play white noise on it, and it would help this person go to sleep. So it has this calming thing to it. I can't really explain what it is, but it works, and I kind of want to try it. But the first thing I want to try is the Adaptal air dispenser, because that seems, that's the first thing that was recommended to me, and maybe if Adaptal works great, I might consider the collar. And who would I give this to? Well, which dog is the one I always say does these bizarre things? Yeah, Regina. So it'd be all for Regina, and I think it'd be a great way to kind of break that barrier that we have sometimes, because she does get super wound up, and if we can, like, rewind her up? Wind her down? Yeah, there you go. So if you could wind her down, maybe she'd be more receptive to other things that we do and be more patient. And that's a huge thing with Regina. She's not a very patient dog, and I'll admit we have spoiled her a little bit, but that doesn't mean that we can't, that she can't be a good dog. It's just we've made the job more difficult for us. But I would say that for Cookie, we don't really have to worry about that much. Sometimes she'll have like little accidents, but we're kind of attributing it to just her being an old dog and kind of spiteful whenever we leave, which, I mean, that could help with the anxiety of us leaving her, but in the house, not outside. But overall, like, those are some really good things that I would definitely consider trying. Definitely the Thundershirt, because of just my own experience with it, because it did definitely work with Rhodey. And just, I really want to see how it works with other dogs. Like, I don't think we need it for Cookie, because, well, maybe it would help with her barking when, like, something that she does, and this might be due to anxiety, but, like, the second we get out of the house and, you know, she's free to do whatever she wants, she just bolts down the driveway to the gate, and she just barks. And I'm not sure if that's her anxiety going on or if she's just being annoying. So I might want to experiment with a Thundershirt or something to calm her down, so that she doesn't have to, be, you know, the annoying dog that she can be. Or there's also the option, and this is something that I saw at our dog bakery, and it was like these CBD treats, and I think I've already mentioned this before, but for Regina in particular, it just makes her bladder like kind of really build up more, if that makes any sense. So she has to constantly go outside, or she ends up having an accident in the house. And that's before she takes the nap that eventually the CBD treat will give her. But, I mean, we do have some more. We'll see how it goes with the actual calming down stuff. But, you know, if everything else doesn't work, try that CBD treat and, you know, let me know how that works out for you. But we're going really fast today. It feels like it, at least. But we are going to have another commercial break, and we are going to be talking next about changing your dogs or your cats or your animals, just environment. And I imagine that a lot of you can relate to this. Just with a change in environment can just do so much for you. But we'll talk about that in a bit.
Is weird, odd, strange, or just plain bizarre is really your cup of tea? Then the Golden State Media Concepts Weird News Podcast will give you that fix. Can't believe it? Well, listen for yourself as we deliver the strangest news you definitely won't find on CNN or Fox. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Weird News Podcast.
Welcome back, and, well, we talked about toys and gadgets and just stress in general for your pets, but, you know, there's always something that we can all relate to, and it's changing your environment when you are stressed out. So, for instance, whenever I'm stressed out about grading papers for my students, and they're usually sent to me digitally, I will close my laptop and go into the kitchen and, I don't know, eat myself a brownie or a cupcake, whatever is in the kitchen at the time. You know, actually, to sound very healthy, I eat my granola. Yeah, that's right. So, anyway, we are going to talk about changing your environment so your pets feel more comfortable, less stressed out. And, you know, I'm going to start with something that I saw on HGTV, where this family asked I imagine it was the Property Brothers or something like that, but they had asked specifically for a little nook under their staircase for their dogs to just have a place where they can go to. And it had like a little curtain that could be pulled back and forth, and had comfy beds inside of it. And it was just kind of a place where the dogs could go to if they needed to feel safe. And this is actually something that my friend that runs the rescue, that's something that she actually talked to me about. And this was long after we stopped trying to train Regina. But she had told me that actually the crates are a great way to make your pets feel safe. And it's more because the dogs in particular are like den animals. So like den as in D-E-N. So because they're den animals, the crates actually help make them feel safe because that's kind of hardwired into them. And I had never thought of it that way. But because we don't have the marvelous help of the Property Brothers, and, well, we don't have a crate that's big enough for Reggie anymore, we gotta find something else. So, in the case of changing the environment of your home, at least for the environment that your pet is currently in, well, one thing that we did with Rhodey was whenever he seemed really anxious, I started piling blankets on top of him and kind of like burritoing him inside this number of blankets. And he would just kind of calm down, he would stop shivering, and he'd just kind of fall asleep after a little bit. And I feel like I'm talking about Rhodey a lot. But we can also talk about how Eisen, he finds multiple safe spaces for him. For instance, he apparently likes to hang out behind our dryer now, but there are also, going under the bed is a good way for him to change his environment, make him less reachable to things that could possibly cause him harm. There is also a way that Eisen would basically find little nooks and crannies for him to just kind of squish into, like behind the dryer. But another thing that he would do, and sometimes this is something that cats don't necessarily do, and this kind of goes back to how Manxes are kind of like dogs in a way, but he would normally go over to my husband, because they're best buds, and he would just rest on his stomach and just kind of cuddle up over there. And it was mostly because he felt safe around my husband, because they've been through a lot together. It's actually a very touching story, but I'm not going to get into it. But in addition to all of that, what if it's not raining or something like that? Well, a good way to help a pet de-stress, especially a cat like Eisen, is to have an open space that they feel that they can kind of not take over, but enjoy. So we have a back patio, as I mentioned before, and we have his cat tree, right at the corner of the room, so he can see all around. And he's able to feel a little stimulated. We can open up the windows so that he can just sniff through the screen. He is basically enjoying life just through the screen, vicariously through the screen. And I always can't help but imagine what it'd be like for Regina to be that tiny and being able to just stalk everything. She would probably get very hyperactive. But, trying to make a shrine for your pets where they can escape to. I've seen some things you can buy from the pet store where it's kind of like a little box that your pets can go into and just kind of hide. And again, it's kind of going back all the way to this den mind space. And hey, if you can take advantage of that, go ahead and do it. I mean, you've seen pictures of dogs hiding behind their owner's legs too. It's where they're kind of protected and hidden in that way, and they feel sheltered by it. And in addition to all this, you want to make sure that you're trying to stay as calm as possible, because everything around them right now is chaotic or just causing a lot of discomfort for them. And what can you do to help them? Well, you change with the environments and you help your pets stay calm and just kind of weather it out with them. And like sometimes, and I've seen this before, there are a lot of pets that get really uncomfortable during a storm. And well, a family pet from a long time ago of my husband's, like, she would like open doors, like the doorknobs and stuff, and she was part pit, and her jaw strength would just kind of crush the doorknobs, but she'd be able to open up the door and like cause complete chaos because she's just so scared of like storms or anything like that. So we weren't really sure how to handle it at that time, but knowing now, if she had like a place that she could escape to where she felt safe, aside from our own bedrooms, well, that would have been a good thing for her, I think. But she unfortunately has long since passed, and just thinking about it, I think I could have made a pretty good shrine for her. Or maybe they could have like installed a little doggy door for her to come in and out as she pleased. Just so she could not destroy door handles and all that kind of stuff. But like, her name was Sheila. Sheila would definitely cause a little bit of destruction along her way, just because she was so frightened. And kind of back, she was probably traumatized by some entire thing where she was stuck outside and not able to escape this stressful situation. But again, like, just staying calm is a huge thing. We couldn't, like, around the time that we were having problems with Sheila, we were never really home to see it. See her do anything that would react to just her destroying her environment that she didn't feel safe in. Well, this kind of goes for Eisen, too. Honestly, I think it was yesterday or something like that. Regina had managed to get past her baby gates, and she bolted downstairs where Eisen's bachelor pad is. And the first place that Eisen went to was under my desk. So, and he would just stand there and he'd just try to blend in with the dark, and it was blocked off enough that Regina couldn't really stick her head in without getting scratched in the face. So, it works. You're finding different things for your pets to feel safe around. I mean, boxes. Come on, cats like boxes. And you know why? Probably because it makes them feel safe. Because it's closed in, and there's an easy escape route. And also, they like the feel of the cardboard on their paws, I bet. But anyway, again, we are going to be hitting another commercial break. And this time, well, you guys are familiar with this. It's pet music. And I have a lot to say about this because I have a history of trying to use music for myself to calm me down. And it does not exclude your friendly little beasts. I'll go ahead and say that. Because they can actually really recover or calm down based on the types of music that you choose from. And, well, currently, just kind of a little sneak peek, while I am working on this podcast right now, Regina and Cookie are upstairs, and they are sleeping on the armchairs because, well, I have some music on for them. I'll tell you what kind of music later, but they are calm. I have not heard a single rumbling of Regina or, yap from Cookie. It's been completely quiet, which is fantastic. So, anyway, after this break, we'll talk more about music and your pets and how it helps with their anxieties and all that kind of stuff. But just gotta take some time to listen to this commercial.
the Golden State Media Concepts Travel Podcast, the show that gives you advice on everything travel. We explore places you've always wanted to go, as well as giving tips for traveling in those places. We'll give you advice on the best sites for travel tips, information, and discounts. Join us as we travel the world, explore cultures, and meet new people. The Golden State Media Concepts Travel Podcast has got you covered. Download the GSMC Travel Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
We are back, and we were just talking about environments for your pets, ways to get them to calm down just based on like a space for them. And I figured that we could revisit a topic that I had talked about a few episodes ago, I think, or maybe it was the last episode. Either way, it was basically talking about pets and music and how they can react to music. And just kind of start off, well, we can talk about how, for me in particular, I'm not a pet, but I think it's very comparable. But there are different types of music that calms me down and also riles me up. And, you know, that can be applied to the same thing with pets. And I've had pets that do react differently to different types of music. It's kind of based on their personality, honestly. And just kind of get into it, well, for our dog Rhodey, he was always an anxious boy. He would bark about basically anything, everything, like a leaf that's just blowing along in the wind, or a can that's sitting on the street or something like that. Anything would set him off, and he'd just bark. Just bark, being anxious and screaming eventually. So we were desperate to find ways to calm him down, aside from giving him any puppy Xanax, because we had tried that before on a trip down to my mom's, and it was a several-hour trip, like, I think it's like 14 hours to get to where she's at, driving. And we decided that we did not like seeing Rhodey, like, getting so anxious and wound up and then crashing for, maybe like an hour, and then having to give it to him again. It just was not ideal, and we didn't want to see Rhodey like that. So when we got back from our trip, we started looking into, different types of music that would calm him down. And, we would play classical music, we'd play different kinds of music, like country music, and he didn't really like that very much, but we eventually landed on Wes Montgomery, and he absolutely loved it. Like, the day that we introduced it to him, he basically, got onto the couch, cuddled up, and then he just kind of chilled out there for a while, and that's kind of the goal of Wes Montgomery, honestly. And just to even go further, there were kids, running up and down the street where he could see, and he just kind of, stared off at them and didn't really get up or do anything. He was just chilling out. Again, the goal of Wes Montgomery. Now, we did want to try to experiment more, so we played other jazz artists, but he still got riled up, which kind of told me that he was kind of a snob and only thought that Wes Montgomery was the best of all. Which, okay, that's fine. He never really liked trying to expand his horizons, honestly. But when it came to Eisen, too, it was a little bit more of a trying time to just get him to sit down and listen to the music, because he's just kind of a man on his own. And he'll listen to Wes Montgomery, he'll listen to classical music, but he won't really react too much with it. I will say that I did get some reaction when I played this cat music that was produced by a man named David Tay, and I'm probably not pronouncing his last name right, but it's spelled T-E-I-E. And he actually came up with an entire album of just cat music, and it's, just different sounds that cats find pleasing, and there was even like a song full of purrs, cat purring. And honestly, I found that actually pretty relaxing too, because, well, cat purrs are comforting, right? So he kind of liked that, but, he's still the kind of cat that, shows interest, but not too much interest. Yeah, he likes to play hard to get. So, either way, we know that about Eisen, and, he's okay with music, but he'd rather be on his own. Hello, darkness, my old friend. No, he's not depressed. But now we're having new dogs into our lives, and, well, we have Regina, and we also have Cookie, who both of these dogs have their different personalities, and a lot of the times I'm not really sure how to approach it. Like for Reggie, we tried to play Wes Montgomery, just to see if there was anything similar between her and Rhodey. And we tried playing jazz music, and then, we went back to the one that's usually suggested by articles that I've read online, and, just try classical music. So I'm like, okay, well, I don't know if she'll like this, but we turned it on when we were using Spotify on a playlist called Chilled Classic, and that actually really got her to calm down. Like earlier, I had it going for her and Cookie for a while, and it was just nice and silent. There was no rumbling of Reggie's feet on the floor above me. There was no yapping from Cookie either that would disrupt anything. And honestly, they just kind of fell asleep. And it wasn't until my husband got home, and this is something that we'll have to talk about later. But once my husband came home, it became a huge party, the celebration I was telling you about from earlier. And it was still like a muted kind of celebration, because like the music had calmed Reggie down at least, and she got treats, which probably encourages her to be more excited when we come home, but essentially, it still kept her calm enough, and that was really the goal. And I would say that for Cookie just listens to whatever she wants, and when I say that, I mean it as in, like, music, sounds in general, people's voices. She doesn't care. She'll listen to it, or she won't listen to it. I'm almost positive of this, because whenever we trim her little ears, and, the hair that grows inside Poodle's ears in particular, like, whenever we trim it down, she can hear us pretty well. It's when she's not listening to us that we do check, and there's kind of a little bit of fur there, but not extensive. Not to the point that it would block her hearing. But that is Cookie for you. She has proven to be a jerk most of the time, but we love her, and she's cute, and she's just a grandma. Kind of think of it like a passive-aggressive grandma that he tries to say something nice but can't really say anything nice at all, if that makes any sense. But I would say that overall, like, music has really helped, and I would also say that just using it to change the environment can also change your own environment in a way that could really make it positive, could really just kind of bring you and your pet closer together, I guess. I guess that kind of makes sense. But anyway, we are going to have another break, and this will be our last break, and I just kind of wanted to give you an update on Regina, and, she is still a puppy, which means that she's still learning, and she's still trying to adapt to all these big changes in her life, and I just, it's something that I'm actually kind of proud of, and it was based on a suggestion of a friend that we do this particular type of training for, well, her house training, which has been a little bit rocky, kind of getting better, but sometimes not. It's like a U-shaped return. Like, you kind of get better at first, and then you turn around and you just kind of regress. And we've had a lot of that, and I just kind of really wanted help from her, or anyone, to, like, give me some guidance on it, because I was tired of Reggie peeing on my nice rugs. Well, you know, my $10 million rugs. Actually, they were Walmart rugs. But anyway, aside from that, you know, I just wanted to protect my stuff. And by training your pets, which is probably another topic for the future, but by training the pets, you do a lot to, well, invest in your own things. So with that in mind, I'm going to let you guys go on a little break, and then we'll wrap it up. Okay?
Want to find out what movies to go see? Then check out the GSMC Movie Podcast. It's your ticket to the latest movies, whether it's a new blockbuster event, romantic, comedy, or action flick. This show has got it all covered. They talk some what to go see now. Don't bother. What's hot on Netflix and everything in between. That's gsmcpodcast.com/movie-podcast. When it's all about the movies, it has to be this new show. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
And we are back for our final segment, and as I told you guys, we are going to talk about Regina's progress as she continues to work on being house-trained. And at this point, she's a year old. I know that for some dogs, that's kind of a really long time to not be house-trained, or I've also heard that one of my friends actually had a dog that took maybe about 2.5 years to get her fully house-trained. Well, we're a year out now, and she's kind of house-trained, but it kind of goes back into her independence. I'm going to focus on her independence, because that's a huge thing about her personality. But basically, I'll start from the beginning. At first, she was completely not house-trained, and like I had recently got this new rug, and I was really excited, and then she started peeing on it and pooping on it, and I was getting very frustrated because I thought I was doing everything right, you know, keeping her nearby so I could take her instantly outside if she needed to, you know, keeping her on a leash, using those puppy pads that, you know, kind of worked, but then she grew aware enough that she could rip them apart. So then, after a period of time, we had when we got home, shreds of puppy pad that had pee on it, and somebody had to clean it up, and it was not Regina, apparently. But after that, we did try to use these keep off sprays, which honestly they didn't work at all. Like, Regina would just go wherever she wanted, and it got to the point that I was thinking, well, what more could we do? And there are definitely options for us, but I was getting very frustrated with it, and I just, you know, we started taking her out more and more, because I had read that usually after play, after food, and after naps, puppies generally like to go and relieve themselves. So I started that pattern, and it really started working for a period of time, and she would start letting us know that she needed to go out, because I started training her to, like, you know, hit her paw on our laps, which then kind of devolved into her like scratching at us violently until we let her out, and if we ignored it, then she would pee. And then, well, she told us she was just being mean about it. That's basically what it is. This dog does not get the idea of gentle unless she's asleep. Just saying. And, well, I was talking to my friend about this, and her sister, I know, I feel like I'm doing like a nice chain of people now, but my friend's sister got a dog that was supposed to be a support dog because of some health issues that she had. And she told me that what they were trying to do at one point was to train Bella, the dog's name, with a bell. So, like, every time that she needed to go out, they would ring the bell and basically, condition her to go to the bell and ring it whenever she needed to go. Turned out that while the dog is really cute, maybe not the most trainable dog, because that kind of fell through, it sounds like. And it sounds like she's doing better with different techniques, but it's something that I definitely wanted to try with Regina, because it sounded very, very interesting. And Regina seems like, well, I'm going to go ahead and say, Regina is a very trainable dog. And essentially, I had a bell in my house, and I decided to hang it next to our bedroom because, like, our bedroom kind of there's like a cut through between our bedroom and the outside. Don't even ask me about that, about that layout. But basically, I've been ringing the bell for Regina every single time that she's needed to go, that she signals to me with her violent scratching, that she needs to go out. So I don't initially let her out. I first bring her to the bell, and then I start ringing it, and then I started building it up to where I started trying to gesture to her to start ringing the bell, and she kind of starts touching her nose on it, and you know, that's a good thing, so yes, you get to go outside, all that kind of stuff. And lately, and this is amazing, she has started hitting the bell on her own. It's not consistent, but it's more than what I expected, and that's pretty awesome. I can also say that maybe my dog's smarter than my friend's sister's dog. But, we still have those accidents where Regina just isn't used to the idea of hitting a bell to go outside. She knows that she needs to go outside to use the bathroom, but it's her being impatient and her also just being difficult. She's a stubborn girl, and that requires us to be far more stubborn, and I don't know if we've been doing that well enough yet. Well, we should do it now, before things get out of hand. But overall, she's been doing very well, and she has learned a lot. There are fewer accidents, but like down in our basement area, we can't have either of the dogs down here because for some reason, and this happened with Rhodey too, and I just want to note that Rhodey was always good about being let out. He never liked using the bathroom in the house. First week that we moved into our house, well, he used the bathroom in our basement, and we didn't know why. So there was something weird going on there, and there must be something going on in this basement that we need to fix that that requires, less social distancing. But those two, Regina and Cookie, are, just let the bowels go and let the bladder go, and it's just, an unfortunate mess. So we can't let them go down here at all unless they've been recently taken out, and I mean very recently taken out, which is why we always call this area Eisen's bachelor pad, because it's only him down here, and it has, a little bit of furnishings, and, he can do whatever he wants, and, he's generally happy, and he gets to poke on out, into the kitchen whenever there's light outside, and, we have a gate dividing up our living room and our kitchen and basement area, so it's all good. But overall, I'm extremely proud of Regina, and I'm still getting a little bit impatient with the idea, like, why can't you get this faster? But again, it's really based on your pets and their trainability and their personality. And the better the combination is, the easier it is. Well, and then let's throw in like your pet parent's ability as a pet parent. Combine all of those together, and you get to see like what happens with your pet's ability to, eventually go outside without any, issue of, having an accident. But the bell is working to an extent. I just have to do a lot of gesturing at it and a lot of consistency with it. Because if we stop, she's going to get lazy and she will go back to her other methods of getting us to take her out. So I'm hoping that we can cut out the mauling that she's doing and then just kind of lead into the bell ringing. Because that really is kind of a lifesaver, and I can't get over it. But we can't do that with Cookie because the bell's too high for her, and I have no reason to lower the bell for her. So typically Cookie is good unless she gets anxious and does like an anxious poop inside. But that's, that's all about anxiety and stuff, and we're hopefully going to be able to work on that sooner rather than later. Hopefully we'll be able to leave our homes, for other reasons other than groceries and all the essential stuff. But anyway, I am just glad that something is working for Regina, and it could be worse. It could be that she might have a bowel problem and she is just using the bathroom all over the place. And she's trying, well, this is if. She is perfectly healthy right now, and we're just happy about that. And again, I'm really happy about her just being able to ring the bell occasionally. That's kind of a wonderful thing to have, just a dog being able to do that. And, well, hopefully we'll see her potty trained before 2.5 years. That's my goal. But anyway, I want to thank you for listening to the GSMC Pets podcast, which was brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would like to ask that you please, oh please, oh please, remember to subscribe to the show and write us a nice review. I love reviews, and they help us get better to entertain you. Now also, if you can, please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I love posting pictures of my pets, and, probably little videos of Regina eventually. But either way, I want you guys to have a wonderful night, and thank you.
You've been listening to the GSMC Pets Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all of the shows from the GSMC Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, from business news to weird news. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's podcast.